It says, Abraham. He said to him, Abraham, here I am. Take your son, your only son who you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you. It's like, bro, like you're supposed to sacrifice your son. Okay, that I will show you. Early the next morning, Abraham got up and loaded his donkey. He took with him 2 of his servants and his son Isaac. When he had cut enough wood for the burnt offering out for the place God had told him about. On the 3rd day, Abraham looked up. My beard is glorious. No. I think we're good now. All right, awesome. So it says he set out for the place God had told him. On the 3rd day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. He said to his servants, stay here with the donkey while I and the boy go over there. We will worship, and then we will come back to you. Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac, and he himself carried the fire and the knife as the 2 of them went together. 2 of them went on together. Isaac spoke up and said to his father, Abraham, Father. Yes, my son, Abraham replied. The fire and the wood are here. And Isaac said, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? And Abraham answered, God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son. And the 2 of them went on together. That would be very hard, knowing that you're supposed to be sacrificing your son, and your son's like, where's the sacrifice? And you're like, you're it. Like, that's tough. And it says, when they reached the place God had told him about, Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood on it, and he on top of the wood. Then he reached out his hand and took the knife to slay his son, but the angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven, Abraham, Abraham. Here I am, he replied. Do not lay hands on the boy, or do not lay a hand on the boy. He said, do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your holy son. So Abraham looked up, and there in a thicket he saw a ram caught by its horns. He went over and took the ram to sacrifice it as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called that place, the Lord will provide. And to this day it is said, on the mountain of the Lord it will be provided. So that was a lot that I just read to you guys right away. So basically what God is telling Abraham is he's like, you have to sacrifice your one and your only son. I mean, sounds a little familiar, but I couldn't imagine that. If God was like, sacrifice one of your kids, I would be like, if I'm honest with you, I'd be like, all right, this isn't for me. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know if I'd have the heart to do it. I mean, it's different when you're put in that circumstances, but what I'm trying to say is thank God he doesn't have us sacrifice anything like that anymore. We don't need to like cut a lamb or anything like that. But can you imagine what Abraham was having to go through? I want to relook at verse 14 as it shows us one of the names. So it says, so Abraham called the place, the Lord will provide. The Lord will provide. Jehovah Jireh. Which means the Lord will provide. So I'm going to say Jehovah Jireh, and everybody say the Lord will provide. Jehovah Jireh. All right, you know me, I'm going to make you do it again. Jehovah Jireh. All right, faster. Jehovah Jireh. Jehovah Jireh. All right. Thank you, guys. Anyway, so what the Lord is really doing to Abraham in this moment is he is testing Abraham this whole time. From the very beginning, God's like, I'm not going to have you sacrifice your son. He just wanted to see how obedient he was and if he was really going to trust God. So this really shows the obedience that Abraham had. He had to be miserable throughout this whole process. And for me, I wouldn't have understood. I've been like, again, like I said, why are you making me sacrifice my son? But he was faithful to obey God and was able to show himself as Jehovah Jireh, our provider. God was able to show himself to Abraham like that. That he was going to provide for him just like that ram was in that bush. He provided a sacrifice. He provided a burnt offering. Many times, we don't get as far as Abraham even did. When we start to get tested, we begin to start doubting God, or we trust him in the moments that we are in. I'm a walking testimony of that on that Sunday morning. I was like, yep, dang, I actually got here. I have nobody. Like, Lord, I prayed. I wasn't like mad at God. I was just like, I could have done better. I failed. And all of a sudden, God just starts providing. And then I got ushers. We got plates passing by. I mean, it was That is something that probably seems so small to you guys, but that was a significant moment in my faith. That was significant to me. But if you stay faithful to God and you give what you have to him in those difficult moments, he will reveal himself and he'll provide for you. God will provide for you in those moments. The Lord is our provider, Jehovah Jireh. The Lord is our provider. I got one more scripture I want to read for you, and I'm going to tell you a story. In James, everybody go to the book of James, which is towards the end of the Bible, James chapter 4. It says, what causes fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from your desires that battle within you? You desire but do not have, so you kill. You covet, but you cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and you fight. You do not have when you ask. What's going on? If you're going to fly me all the way across the pond and I'm not going to be able to heal people, why am I even here? And I remember reading as he said, when he was sitting in that moment, he was angry with God, and he was saying that as God says to him, why do you want to see these miracles? Why do you want to see them? Are you seeing it for a selfish gain to believe, or for the people really to get healed? Now, like I said, this is a spiritual gifting of his, but the motive to why he went Africa at this point was not why he usually goes to these things. He was burnt out. He was just tired. He didn't want to be there. He openly admitted that he was just like, I don't really want to be here. I just want to pray over people so they can get healed so I can leave. It was in that moment that he realized the only reason why he was over there, and his attitude was for a selfish reason. He said, I'm being selfish in that moment. The next morning, he prayed to God and said, God, change my heart so that you can take the selfishness out of me and let me do what I was called here to do. And what ends up thousands and thousands of people physically healed right before his eyes that weekend to come. He said, I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was thousands of people physically healed. You see, I want to tell you something real quick. Worship team, you guys can come back up. God is not a genie. Think about that. When you pray, God is not a genie. If you're saying, God, I want $10,000, he's not going to be like, all right, you got 2 wishes left. Or if he's going to like, hey, give me better hops so that, AJ can windmill dunk it. Maybe you could do it. I don't know. It depends on your motives behind it. But what I'm trying to tell you is you really have to check the motives as to why you're asking God to provide for you. I'm going to reiterate verse 3 right now. There's a